I have a very pleasant task ahead to introduce a person who is a household name, not just in Namma Karnataka, but in the entire education field of the country. An eminent teacher and mentor to hundreds of students and teachers themselves, Dr. Guru Raja Karjagi. He hails from Bijapur and has a doctorate in chemistry from Karnataka University. He has started and molded many educational institutions like the Vidyavardhaka Sangha, Jain International Residential School, and many more. He is an epitome of culture and humility. I could also say heritage. Dr. Karjagi talks on Gita, on Mankutimana Kagga, on Upanishads, and the Kumaravyasa Bharata, which is a companion to many people like me through the day. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. It's an honor to have you, sir, and very gladly we await your opinion for this. Over to Dr. Karjagi. Thank you.
My most reverential pranams to all of you. I feel so beholden to Dr. Hegde, who asked me to be here this evening. I enjoy being a listener rather than a talker. We're talking about Gita. The most exciting and dramatic spiritual discourse ever given in this world is Bhagavad Gita. Most dramatic. Consider the setting. It is virtually the inauguration of the world's greatest catastrophic, colossal human disasters, where 18 Akshohini soldiers were annihilated in just 18 days. Bhima says, this land will never ever ask for water because it's so much soaked in blood. And teaching Arjuna Tattvamasi in this background is something funny, but I think it is the most appropriate. We all want peace. People go to Himalaya to get peace. I tell them, don't go to Himalaya to get peace. Himalaya is already peaceful. Don't disturb it. We want peace in our hearts, right here, in the heart of majestic circle with all our conflicts. We want peace here. That's why Krishna preached Bhagavad Gita in the midst of two warring parties. Think of the setting. A genius like only Vyasa can do that. Two armies on either side, 11 Akshohini on one side and 7 Akshohini on the other side, raring to go. And between them comes this chariot of Krishna and Arjuna, and Krishna gives him the Bhagavad Gita message. And also teaches us important thing, apart from Tattvamasi. Whatever little abilities that we have, we can fight with big forces, with these small virtues. Look at Kauravas, their 11 Akshohini Sena, and the best warring leaders, Bhishma, Drona, Kripa, Ashwathama, Karna, Shalya, Duryodhana, all outstanding warriors on one side. On the other side, 7 Akshohini Sena, small as usual. Good is always small in number and bad is very large in number. There are two major fighters here on this side, Bhima and Arjuna. But still Pandavas won because they had Krishna with them. Krishna was the conscience keeper of Pandavas. To me, why it is relevant? Krishna is our conscience keeper also. Our conscience is our Krishna in our hearts. With that clear conscience, we can fight with any battle. With limited powers, we can destroy huge, mighty negativity. Gita starts with a question of a blind man, Dhritarashtra, who is not only physically blind, but spiritually blind. Dharma kshetre, kurukshetre, samaveta yuyutsavaha, mamaka pandavaschaiva, kim kurvata sanjaya. Look at that word mamaka. Dhritarashtra's moha is so strong towards his sons and the power. It blinds him virtually. Mamaka pandavaschaiva. My children and Pandavas, what is happening? My children. And he cannot overcome the moha. Actually, in real life, we are no different. Because We have our hearts filled with moha, anger, jealousy, frustration, many things we are there which makes us blind. At the end of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna declares, Nashto moha, smritir labdha, tat prasadan maya chutaha, smitosmi gata sandeha, karishye vachanam tava. All my doubts are cleared. My memory is back because of your blessing, Lord. And then he says, Smitosmi gata sandeha. I have no doubts at all in my mind. Karishye vachanam tava. Whatever you say, I will do it. I'll follow you. This is the journey of Gita, from the cloud of darkness of ignorance and base qualities to brightness of clarity of thought and expression. This is the journey of Bhagavad Gita. The question many people ask me is, why should we study Gita? When I was discussing Gita in the US university, one girl asked me, if Arjuna had a problem and she sought the guidance of Krishna, why should we intrude in their dialogue? Arjuna had a problem and Krishna gave the solution. Why should we intrude into the dialogue? But the answer is beautiful. If the message that Krishna gave to Arjuna is significant and relevant to me in the 21st century, Krishna's message is useful to me. Please remember, most important, Krishna's message that Arjuna at that time is still relevant to us even now. I find Gita as a ready reckoner for 21st century challenges and ills. Actually, I'm writing a book on most modern principles of management as propounded in Bhagavad Gita. You talk of any modern management technique, crisis management, communication skill, time setting, name anything, you find that in Bhagavad Gita. The last shloka in Bhagavad Gita is perhaps the greatest takeaway. Yatra Yogeshwara Krishno, Yatra Partho Dhanurdharaha, Tatra Shri Vijayo Bhuti, Dhruva Netir Matir Mama. The essence is so beautiful. Two things are required. Why Pandavas won? They had Yogeshwara Krishna with them and also Dhanurdhara Partha. If these two are together, victory is guaranteed. No spiritual book can ever guarantee like this. If two things are there together, one is Sankalpa Shakti of Krishna and Kriya Shakti of Arjuna. If they are inextricably interwoven, success is guaranteed. I always say Gita is relevant today, relevant tomorrow, and 10,000 years from now, because it talks of universal values which are stable at all times. Therefore, book will remain relevant at all times. I'm so honored that I have a chance of talking to all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir, for your wonderful message and for joining us and sharing your views on the greatness and the significance of the Bhagavad Gita today. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Parampara. We have come to the 8th and the last session of the introduction to the to Vedanta program. And I'm extremely grateful to all the gurus, to God, to all the great assistance I've had from my team, and to each one of you for having made this a great festival for us. We are all amateurs. We have learned very indirectly from our gurus. Once in a year, our gurus visit the city, and the rest of the time we have learned from their audios. We have been so charged by listening to the Gita and the Upanishadic message, and that is what has brought out that today, now because of the pandemic, many people are sitting at home. We don't have competition like the IPL, and also with technology, we've been able to reach out to so many people. And that is what we have been able to do. Please forgive us for our limitations. We are not very fluent with the language Sanskrit. There may be limitations in the way we pronounce, but essentially this is our message. Our message is, as Dr. Gururaj Karjagi said, the Gita and the Upanishads, though very ancient, Pura Api Nava, very ancient but very relevant for today. And it has brought in godliness into our lives. It has brought meaning, it has brought purpose, and that is what we want to share. I will like you to do a small meditation. In Vedanta, there are two forms of meditation. One is called upasana. Upasana is done before spiritual knowledge, primarily with a view to quieten our mind, bring our mind to this moment. Our mind is our greatest tool. Through various techniques of upasana, we are able to bring our mind to the present so that we can use it fully to whatever objective that we are doing. Swami Vivekananda has said our mind is like a monkey, not just a monkey, but a drunken monkey. It is extremely difficult to keep our mind in one position because the mind keeps wandering. If it goes to the past or to the future, we say the mind is not in real time, our mind is in psychological time. Now, through various techniques of upasana, we learn to keep our mind in real time. If some spiritual knowledge has been given to us, and if this spiritual knowledge has been now become clear, this I know, then the teacher says, I want you to meditate on these words. Reflect on these words again and again. This reflecting of the knowledge that the teacher has given us is called nididhyasana. So the knowledge now becomes internalized and it goes into every part. So now we are convinced about it, not only when the teacher tells us, but when you go out into the life, when there are a lot of conflicts, it becomes meaningful. Look at this beautiful picture of Lord Vishnu. Try to make an eye contact with the Lord. And once you have absorbed the picture of the Lord, I want you to gently close your eyes and keep that image of the Lord in you. Shuklam Bharadaram Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasanna Vadanam Dhyayet Sarva Vignopashante. Keeping your eyes closed, become aware of your body posture. Keeping your back upright. If you're sitting on a chair, keep your feet flat on the ground. As far as possible, do not move. Become very sensitive to all the sounds that you might hear. Become very sensitive to all the thoughts that are going on in your mind. As you observe your thoughts, there will be some moments when your mind is absolutely blank. There are no thoughts, but now you see yourself as an illuminator. I am illumining my mind where there are no thoughts. Or if there is a thought, there is a thought, but now there is no thoughts. There is a blank mind. Just observe your blank mind. And in that state, I would like you to bring one teaching which Swami Paramarthananda ji has given us as a fundamental teaching of Vedanta. I want you to reflect on this fundamental teaching. And the fundamental teaching is, I am someone other than whatever I can see and experience. This is based on a prakriya or a technique called Drik Drishya Viveka. Whatever I see is an object of my experience. That includes Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasagandha, whatever I can feel, touch, smell, or taste. Whatever I experience is an object of my experience, and that is not me. It is easy to negate the whole world as not me, but the great spiritual exercise is this body that I can feel is an instrument through which I interact, just like my spectacles. But the instrument, however close to me, is not me. So the first fundamental principle in Vedanta is, I am not my body. Reflect on this very deeply. I am that consciousness who illumines my body. I experience my body. I experience my body and mind. I am not my body. The second and a very liberating truth is all that I experience. For instance, my body has a certain weight. I have no weight. My body has certain dimensions in space, height, weight, etc. I have no dimensions. My body is located in this place. I, the illuminator, conscious principle, have no limitations in space. My body has a date of birth. I have been there from the very beginning. I will continue to be there for till the very end, if there is an end. Just reflect on, because this is absolutely liberating. I have no limitations in time. I have no limitations in space. I have no limitations with respect to this body and mind. I pervade like Vishnu everywhere. Gently move your fingers. Again, feel the presence of Lord Vishnu and be grateful for the Lord for having brought us great teachers who again and again try to instill the message that this body mind is only an instrument that I use. It is like a drama costume that I wear to play a role in my life. But the real me is somebody far bigger, and therefore the limitations of my role are not my limitations. If this is understood, I play the game of my life intensely. I enjoy all that I do, all the time remembering I'm someone other than the role. And this can be liberating all the time. We next come to a wonderful Gita Dhyana Shloka, which all of us know, and it will be explained to us by one of our youngest students of the Vedanta. She is now completed her 12th standard. Viksha has finished her 12th standard. She just completed a CBSE and has got into sports science at the Manipal University. For more than 6 years, she would come with her parents for the Gita and Upanishadic classes. And at that time, both the sisters were so small and they were given a little stool right in front. And the first person I could see was both these two little girls. And the topics that I had to speak were difficult topics like Drik, Drisha, Viveka and the Upanishads. And seeing their attention and seeing their interest, I made a resolve that whatever I'm going to teach has to be meaningful for them. And that changed the whole style of my teaching. Viksha, can you explain this beautiful Gita Dhyana Shloka? Over to you.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Good evening to one and all. Haven't we all at one point in our lives heard us telling ourselves, this is impossible for me, or I can't, or I'm incapable of doing this? If yes, then this verse shows us how to go from impossible to I'm possible with the Lord's grace. The verse goes like, Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yat kripa tamaham vande paramananda madhavam. I bow down to Lord Krishna, who is the supreme Ananda, whose grace brings speech from the lips of the dumb and the ability for the crippled to climb mountains. This verse describes the power of spirituality, its potency, and its ability to change our lives. When we practice Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and Jnana Yoga, we are able to rise above our lower self. We are able to do things that we thought were impossible. We find that we are no longer bothered and shackled by our own desires, vasanas, and trivial preoccupations in life. For a Gita student, study of 700 verses is a mountain. We offer our prayers and salutations to the Lord to give us strength to complete the study of these 700 shlokas of the Bhagavad Gita. When we dedicate ourselves and our lives to something higher in life, we begin to experience the real power of our true self, which is Atman. Madhusudana Saraswati puts it poetically when he says, Mukam karoti vachalam. It will make a dumb person eloquent and a cripple to climb mountains. Oliver Goldsmith speaks of this in his poem, The Village Preacher. He describes the preacher as the one who gave up a lucrative posting in a big city to go to a village where nobody wanted to go. So here is a person who resisted the comforts of a big city and went to the village because he understood that people needed spiritual guidance. He became a teacher in a little hamlet. In the poem, he urges the readers to speak the truth and live the truth. We have to stand up for what is right and resist the temptation for what is attractive. And divinity will stand by our side. Opportunities will come to you that you never dreamt of. Life will become a beautiful serendipitous journey. Glenn Cunningham was a young American boy who used to go early to school in the bitter winter and start a fire so that the rest of the children wouldn't feel cold when they came to school. One day, he was trying to start the fire and something went wrong and he had severe burns. He was taken to the hospital and he overheard the doctor telling his mother that his chances of survival were very slim. When he heard that, he made up his mind and said to himself, I am not going to die. And he survived. Later, the doctor told that he would never be able to walk because his legs were so badly burnt. But he made up his mind and said to himself, I will walk. He persevered until he could walk. And then a day came when he began to run. Just to celebrate the joy of having his legs back, he would run to school every day, not because he was late for school, but for the sheer pleasure of running. That boy went on to become the world record holder in the 800 meters track event in the Berlin Olympics in 1936. This is just one example, but there are so many stories where the dumb can speak eloquently and the crippled scaled mountains by the grace of the Lord. In the next line of the verse, it says, Yat kripatamaham vande paramananda madhavam. With the grace of the Almighty, O Mahadeva, all will be well and all will be possible. This is one of the most inspiring verses in Vedanta. If you feel weak, if you feel discouraged by the world, remember this verse. Remember Glenn Cunningham, Ekalavya, Prahalada, and many such examples where people have done things that were considered impossible with indomitable Shraddha and Bhakti on the higher self. And that higher self is Ishvara. I would like to conclude with a verse by the great boxer Muhammad Ali to keep us all inspired. Impossible is just a big word thrown around by small men who find it easier to live in a world they've been given than to explore the power that they have to change it. Impossible is not a fact, it's an opinion. Impossible is not a declaration, it's a dare. Impossible is temporary, impossible is nothing. Hari Om, thank you.
Thank you, Viksha, for such a wonderful expression and elaboration of this beautiful verse, which you have spoken with so much conviction. We have the last class we went through an outline of the Gita, and I will quickly give you a recap. Dr. Gururaj Karjagi also spoke so much about the greatness of the Gita, so I don't have to say much. What Adi Shankara has said, that study of the Gita is equivalent to study of the entire Vedic wisdom. The Bhagavad Gita is something that we can relate to. We can relate to how we can use the wisdom offered by Lord Krishna even today in the 21st century. The first chapter gives us the human problem of samsara. Who is the student? Who is the teacher? If you are able to study the second chapter alone gives an entire summary of the whole Bhagavad Gita. The third chapter is a beautiful manual of Karma Yoga, how we can transform our work to worship. And the 6th chapter is an excellent manual about meditation. I have presented this slide last time, but I will give you a quick recap. The entire Bhagavad Gita has one message, Tat Tvam Asi. Your real nature is divine. So the first 6 chapters talk about our real nature. The next 6 chapters talk about the nature of God. And the last 6 chapters say that the essential nature of the individual and the essential nature of God are one and the same. There are 3 sadhanas that bring out. The first talk about karma yoga. The next talk about various aspects of upasana, so that we bring in meditation, so that we can bring in our ability to get grace from the Lord. And the last 6 chapters talk essentially about jnana yoga. And Krishna is very much emphatic about the importance of being a person of values, because if there is just knowledge without values, it is going to be a disparity. Again, as Dr. Gururaj Karjagi said, the last verse of the Bhagavad Gita is just to show how transformative the Gita can be, and how in your real life you can bring this Sri Krishna principle and the Arjuna principle in your own life. If I can club the higher spiritual values within us, represented by Lord Krishna, and all the inputs and skills that we have, the body-mind complex, Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, Yatra Partho Dhanurdhara, Tatra Shri. There you will have prosperity, you will have abundance, you will have Vijaya, you will have progress, you will have steady policy. This is my opinion, says a charioteer. Just listening to the Bhagavad Gita, see the transformation that has happened upon the Bhagavad Gita. Kindled upon the wonderful response that we had on this course, the team that we have been motivated to offer the whole Bhagavad Gita in over 5 months' time, in 20 weeks, 20 sessions, 1 class per week, to be ready before Gita Jayanti. We would like to get the essence of each chapter of the Bhagavad Gita with important verses, also about how to chant, and then we will make an interesting study quiz. Now, this is our plan, and I would like all of us to make a commitment. Very rarely we get this kind of a chance, and one of the best ways to learn the Bhagavad Gita is to assume ourselves that I'm going to be a potential teacher. And if I come with the idea that I'm going to teach Bhagavad Gita to somebody else, let me see how I will learn. I will prepare for each class, and that is why let us be like students of the Gita, not for any sense of scholarship, but let us use this opportunity before Gita Jayanti to get the essence of the Bhagavad Gita. We will have the last Gita Dhyana Shloka. This is another wonderful verse. And we have Dr. Sandhya Ravi to explain this verse for us. Dr. Sandhya is a general surgeon and a breast oncosurgeon and a breast surgeon with more than 30 years of experience. In addition to being a wonderful surgeon, she is also a great student of Vedanta and a great commitment to bring in lifestyle changes which bring in preventive medicine. She started an initiative for women with cancer to deal with holistic aspects of cancer. Dr. Sandhya, please go ahead.
Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. We come now to the last verse of the Gita Dhyana Shloka, a beautiful composition by Madhusudana Saraswati. Chanting this verse, Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutaha Stunvanti Divyaistavaihi Vedai Sangha Padakramopanishadaihi Gayantiyam Samaga Dhyanavasti Tatatkathena Manasa Pashyantiyam Yogino Yasyantam Navidussura Suragana Devaya Tasmai Namaha. This verse pays homage to that transcendental entity, the very essence of the universe, the same divinity that is in all of us and that we take for granted, that is actually the experiencer of all our experiences. All that we find awe-inspiring around us, day in and day out, the sunshine and the sunrise and the sunset, the twinkling of the stars, the roaring thunder, the lashing rain, the raindrops on leaves, and the miracle that is actually our human body and mind. Looking at the translation, salutations to that God whom Brahma, Varuna, Indra, Rudra, and the Maruts praise with their divine hymns of the Vedas and their Angas, whom the Sama chanters glorify with song, whom the yogis see with their minds absorbed in perfect meditation, and whose limitlessness is unknown to the hordes of the Devas and the Asuras. Looking at the deeper meaning of this verse, Tasmai Devaya Namaha. To that Lord, salutations. The word Deva comes from Div, meaning effulgence. So Deva here is the effulgent, all-knowing, all-pervading one. In this verse, the glory of this Lord is brought out in many different ways. Stunvanti, Gayanti, Pashyanti. And these are the words that are used to describe the people who sing the glory of the Lord. And let's look at who they are. Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marut Divyaistavai Stunvanti, whom Brahma, the creator himself, and the Devas, Varuna, Indra, Rudra, Vayu, all of them who live in the higher worlds, glorify him with the divine hymns as seen in the Vedas. If the gods themselves bow down in admiration and respect, how great a God must he be. Next, coming down to the earth, the Samaga, that is the singers of the Sama Veda, Sanga Padakramopanishadai Yam Gayanti. They sing in praise through the four Vedas, the secondary scriptures, that is the Vedangas, with proper chanting, Krama and Pada. Then we have the yogis, Dhyana Vasti Tatadgatena Manasa, Yoginaha Yam Pashyanti. The yogis, or the wise men, who are in Dhyana Avastha or deep meditation, are able to visualize him as the only refuge with the help of single-pointed mind, that is Chitta Ekagrata. They are able to see him within themselves. This they have achieved not easily, but through Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasana. But despite all this, Yasyantam Surasuragana na viduhu, the limitless Anantam nature of the Lord is not known to even the Devas and the Asuras. Why is this? This is because a spiritual sadhaka in the question of Jnanam has to ascend the steps of karma and upasana yoga to gain knowledge about the limitless, attributeless Brahman, that is the Nirguna Brahman. This is not an easy achievement. Krishna himself tells us this in chapter 12, which we will see during our Gita studies. Even the Devas and the Asuras do not have this knowledge. Just by being in the higher lokas, it's not given to them on a platter. They have to work hard for it through Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasana. So the magnitude and splendor of the Supreme Being is brought out in this beautiful verse. What it means to us is that even men and women of true knowledge, the bhaktas and the devotees, are humbled before the Paramatma. And the seekers of the truth attain the Supreme Being at the end of their spiritual path. So with this 9 Divya Dhyana Shlokas, we have done Namaskaram to the Mahabharata, the Gita, Vyasa, and Krishna. And the study of these shlokas introduces us to the power of Bhagavad Gita, the power of sadhana and spiritual practice, and to the Paramatma. Hari Om.
Thank you, Dr. Sandhya, for bringing out the meaning of this beautiful Dhyana Shloka, Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutaha. These are verses that need to be chanted repeatedly, internalize the meaning, and it is said that just by chanting you will get that blessing to be able to study the Bhagavad Gita. My next job is, I have told you very briefly about the last class, that was the Gita. Now, before that, we had 6 weeks of classes. So 6 classes. In about 10 minutes, I will do a quick glimpse of what we have done in the last 6 classes. We began in the first class by saying, let us count our blessings. It is said 3 things happen because of God's grace. Because of God's grace, we have got a human birth. Because of God's grace, we have this desire for liberation or mumukshutvam. If this mumukshutvam is not there, we would not be in this class. This world is full of distractions which will keep you away. And finally, very few people get this opportunity of satsanga. In Buddhist prayer, they say, Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. I surrender to an enlightened master. But enlightened masters are extremely difficult to get. But if an enlightened master is not there, I surrender to a satsanga, a group of like-minded people who want to transcend the limitations of the ordinary and discover something of the extraordinary. If this satsanga is not there, Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami. I surrender to the truth, to the scriptures. And when I am by myself, let me focus on that. Now, the first message for us is how lucky I am. If we really understand that Viveka Chudamani message, that we are so blessed, the next vision that is, let me make the most of my life. While I am healthy, while my faculties are there, let me make the most of my life. And those of us who have been kindled, we know that to make the most is to be able to understand the scriptures. And fortunately, we have great teachers available for us who have given the deeper meaning of these scriptures, which will help us to lead meaningful lives. I love this poem, and I will share this many times again with you. I have never made a fortune, and it is probably too late now, but I don't worry about that. I'm happy anyhow. And as I go along life's ways, I'm reaping better than I sowed. I'm drinking from my saucer, cause my cup has overflowed. Swamiji has given us a very nice FIR is an acronym for personal inventory to see, has these spiritual inputs made a difference to us? The first F stands for frequency. How frequently I get very angry, very upset, very sad. So that is what we need to keep and check on. I stands for intensity, and intensity is classified into 3. Level 1 is mental. I may be upset for some reason, but you don't see it because I'm able to mask it, or it is just mild. Level 2 is verbal. That means it has come to the level of my speech. You can see my volume has changed, my pitch has changed. You know I am upset. And level 3, you see it in my body. R stands for recovery. With spiritual inputs, you know that I am unnecessarily given too much importance for something that I should not give importance to, and I quickly come back to my normal state. Gautama Buddha has said something so relevant when you are in for scriptural learning. I have said this before, it is a recap. Watch your thoughts, they become your words. Watch your words, they become your actions. Watch your actions, they become your habits. Watch your habits, they become your character. Watch your character, it becomes your destiny. And then he makes a landmark statement, change your thoughts, change your destiny. What have we studied while going through this program? Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya Jivo Brahmaiva Naparaha. This is the essence of Vedanta. That this world that I can see and experience, although very tangible and real, is not as real as I think as it is. Just like when I'm in a dream, the world is real, but once I wake up, I know it is not so real. So those who have woken up have told us this world is not so real. And if I have Shraddha, I believe that the world is useful for entertainment, useful for education, useful for service, but not a place for us to invest our happiness, peace, or security on. This is the first thing. Jagan Mithya, the world is not so real. The only real is the one who is watching, the one who is listening, the one who is speaking. Therefore, invest more on that which is real than that which is not so real. To understand that the real problem, the problem is in my mind. Can we become the master of our mind? Can we use whatever techniques that we get through Karma Yoga and through Upasana Yoga so that I can spend more of my time in real time, not in psychological time, not in the dream world, but in the real world. And if I'm able to do that, then all the Purusharthas are Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. I have all the abilities to fulfill it. We have a user's manual. When we come, we are born with ignorance, and all the knowledge The very ancient knowledge is available for us in the form of the scriptures. The scriptures, mainly the Vedas, they are called Shrutis because they were heard. The derivatives from them are the sutras. If you can make it in a very crisp form so that you can carry with you and remember, those are called the sutras. Elaboration of them that you can remember are the smritis. In story form are called Purana. Pura means very ancient, api nava. As Dr. Gururaj Karjagi said, although these are very ancient, they are very relevant today. That is the meaning of the word Puranas. Itihasas are like Puranas, but the word iti means thus it happened. Ramayana, the Mahabharata are the wisdom in the form of stories. And finally, you have the various bhashyam or the commentaries by great masters like Adi Shankara, which help us to correctly interpret these teachings. The Vedas can be broadly divided into the Veda Purva part, which have various mantras, various karmas, various upasanas, and the Veda Anta portion, which we have been recommended to study, the Upanishads. Our teachers say there are 3 texts. The undergraduate level could be the Bhagavad Gita, the graduate level could be the Upanishads, and the postgraduate level could be the Brahma Sutras. This is as far as the scriptures are concerned. Our teacher, Swami Paramarthananda, recommends as part of Karma Yoga to do Pancha Maha Yagna. And I hope because we do Pancha Maha Yagna, you know the 5 things that we need to do. The first of the Pancha Maha Yagna is Brahma Yagna. Especially early in the morning or sometime in the evening, spend some time in scriptural study. Deva Yagna, spend some time both morning and evening and before every meal into a form of a prayer. Manushya Yagna is an extra mile service to your fellow human beings. Bhuta Yagna is service to animals, plants, to ecology, people around you. And finally, Pitra Yagna is the service for your parents and for the elderly in the community. Then we touched on, our next class was on 4 sadhanas and 4 Vedic mantras. What are the 4 sadhanas? The first important sadhana is 90% of my waking time is spent on karma. Can I shift from karma to karma yoga? When does karma become a yoga? When I do more of selfless activities, when I do my work as Ishvara Arpana, as an offering to God, when I'm able to accept whatever I get as prasada, suddenly my work transforms to worship. Can I spend some time in mantra japa or various forms of meditation? Powerful meditations like Om Namah Shivaya, Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Just the name brings stillness, brings silence, allows you to control your mind. Then there is Dhyana Yoga through the scriptures when you understand your real nature and not to be too disturbed by what is happening on the world outside, because the world will continue to give you bad news and bad news only. The world is that way. If you're able to club all these things, that becomes Bhakti Yoga. In addition to so many things, we studied the 9 Gita Dhyana Shlokas, we studied many Vedic mantras, and some beautiful mantras refer to Lord Ganesha. Make this your prayer. Before we study, bring in a Saraswati mantra, the Gayatri mantra. The word mantra means Mananat Trayate. Whoever reflects on these mantra, you are protected. And metric-wise, by the Gayatri meter, the mantra is got certain vibratory quality that if you chant it, you have a very strong aura around you. This aura is very physically and emotionally very protective. That is the meaning of the word Gayatri, Gayantam Trayate. But if you know the meaning, it asks for the highest. Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya. A very powerful mantra, especially at the time of a pandemic, when you never know who around you can be afflicted. This is a very protective mantra. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe. Beautiful mantras for a student of Vedanta. Om Sahana Vavatu. All from the Upanishads. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya. Let me not be caught up in the world which appears so glittering and beautiful, and move from that which appears to be real to that which is real. And if I have understood this mantra, I move from Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. This is a declaration of Purnatva. I am Purna, Bhagwan is also Purna, a very loaded mantra from Ishavasya Upanishad. Each time you eat, remember this mantra, Annapurne, Sadapurne, Shankara Prana Vallave, Jnana Vairagya Siddhyartham, Bhiksham Dehi Cha Parvati. A student of Vedanta requires 4 important qualifications. In business, you know where to invest on, and they say everything that you see and experience is not worth investing on. The one that you is watching is the one that you need to invest on. If you have understood the distinction between what is permanent and what appears to be permanent, then you have viveka. If you are able to give less importance to all the worldly things, you have vairagya. If there is a strong desire that in this life I want moksha, that is mumukshutvam. If you're ready to give whatever discipline, in any area of accomplishment, discipline is required. And these are the 6 disciplines, Shama Adi Shakta Sampatti, which includes sense control, mind control, reducing all other unnecessary activities, which is called Uparama. Titiksha, making yourself physically and mentally very strong. Shraddha, what my teacher is saying is gospel truth, what the scriptures are saying is truth. And Samadhana means a single pointed mind. I have only this and this to achieve. Tattva Bodha, a wonderful manual which tells you that we don't have one body, which we have 3 bodies. The gross body is subtle body and causal body. We don't live in one world, we live in 3 worlds. We live in Tripura. And we studied all these. The nice example that I give is of the mobile telephone, which is the gross body, and the subtle body, which is your SIM. So many mobiles, your instrument you have changed, but the SIM card remains the same. The SIM is your subtle body which moves from one body to the other. It carries all the data of all your past activities, all your karmas. The subtle body never ages. Aging happens only to the gross body. So when the body dies, it is the subtle body continues and lives in another body. If you, Shiva is the destroyer. He destroys the 3 artificial worlds, the waking world, the dream world, and the deep sleep world, and gives you the real you. There is one beautiful mantra in the Mandukya Upanishad, the 7th mantra, which says, Nantat Prajnamna Bahish Prajnamna Ubayata Prajnamna Prajnana Ghanam. So Shiva gives you the real you, which is called the 4th or the Turiya. This is another nice way to understand 3 levels of reality. Dream level is called Pratibhasika. From dream, we wake up to this world, which is called Vyavaharika. And then through scriptural study, we come to a higher level that is called the Paramarthika. The whole discovery is not for something else, but discovery of ourselves. In the beautiful story that we heard of the 10th man, and the teacher will say, the one that you're looking for is none other than you. Tattvamasi Mahavakya. Just like the sunrise and the sunset, which I can very clearly see, but I know is not true, so too is the Mahavakya Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. And so the whole journey is from MBBS to MJBS. What is MBBS? Normally our lives can be meaningless, burdensome, boring struggle. We shift to Mithya Jagat and Brahma Satya. If this is understood, we shift from the triangular format which is called Jiva Jagat Ishvara. I am being bowled from all sides. The whole world seems to be in somewhere against me, and I appeal to the Lord for salvation. So that is the triangular format. But if I realize my real nature, I know that this is just a game. The whole world becomes a Leela. When this knowledge is there in me, I understand the Sri Dakshina Murti Stotra. I realize I'm Sakshat Dakshina Murti himself. And when I realize, like Dakshina Murti keeps his right leg on apasmara, on forgetfulness, never will I forget this. Because if I forget this, apasmara of forgetfulness comes. This is called the Avarana Shakti. Maya has a very strong ability to make me forget my real nature and make me think that I am this limited body-mind complex. And how can suffer disappear at once? If Brahma Vidya comes, all my ignorance is gone, and when the ignorance is gone, suffering disappears at once. For sake of worldly knowledge, we use the law of karma. What does the law of karma say? If you do good activities, you will be rewarded. If you do bad activities, you're punished. Now, this is from a Vyavaharika angle. From a Vyavaharika angle, it is absolutely real. This also explains why some people are so lucky. They have a good body. They have all the good things in the world. So what we are born with, the karmas, is called the prarabdha karma. When you do certain good deeds in your life or bad deeds, that is called the agami karma. And then there is a cloud data called the sanchita karma. The sanchita, from which we have got a certain amount of data. Now this is used to explain to the logical mind. After some time they will say this is has got only a vyavaharika satya. Where from a paramarthika angle, you don't have to worry too much about the law of karma. And therefore, what happens is you can go beyond the law of karma, and what you can do is whatever has happened is going to affect only my body and mind. So I take responsibility for whatever has happened in the past. I will not complain. I will use this for spiritual growth to realize that my real me is someone other than the body. I am certain that all shall be well. Remember all the time, from a lower level, there is no complete solution to any problem, but from a higher level, there is no problem at all. So this is what we have learned. And in conclusion, I would like to say how you can destroy all your karmas from this beautiful verse in the 4th chapter, which says, Dhyana Agni. When the spiritual wisdom dawns in you, when the fire of knowledge is kindled, sarva karmani basmasat kurute tatha. All your karmas are destroyed, and then there is no more returning to this world again. As we have come to the end of this course, we have a few invited talks, and I will request Madhu to be able to share opinions of those who have spoken about our program.
Good evening to one and all. Professor Somnath here from Bangalore. These 8 weeks were truly a wonderful experience for me and my wife, Gita. We listened. Good evening to one and all. Professor Somnath here from Bangalore. These 8 weeks were truly a wonderful experience for me and my wife, Gita. We listened with rapt attention the knowledge of wisdom and the astuteness with which it was delivered by Dr. Hegde sir and his dedicated team. Each one of the speakers was a gem in his own right. True to say that we go about in our daily lives understanding almost nothing of this world. Dr. Hegde sir and his team gave us a feel of the basic concepts and the summary of the various scriptures of the Vedic doctrine, which we are sure would facilitate in the deeper exploration of the divine knowledge. The themes and the thought process have been developed beautifully in a sequential manner, and the consistency in the deliberation made the learning simple to understand and assimilate. The course material also made us appreciate the spirit of Vedic tradition and literature. It's a humble request to Dr. Hegde sir to scale up this program in Astha and Bhakti channels so that it reaches millions of seekers who do venture out but get baffled by the vastness of our religion. Once again, our pranams to Dr. Hegde sir, all the teachers and the support staff for organizing a wonderful program. Namaste and Pranam.
Hi, I'm Deepa Narayan, a student of the Introduction to Vedanta class. I've always been in love with Lord Krishna since childhood. His love for mischief and the good things in life, along with his beautiful philosophy of life, have always kept me hooked. Currently, I am in a very troubled and difficult phase of my life and was questioning even the reason of my existing. This course came in at exactly the right time in my life. I'm deeply rooted in our mitti, so to say, and our traditions and lifestyle convinced me that I would surely find myself and my answers in our scriptures. The study of the structure of the course, along with Dr. Hegde's simple and wonderful explanations and examples, keep it very interesting. Understanding the basic terminology in this manner makes the foundation for the study very strong. Also, all the other speakers explaining a mantra or paragraph gives another perspective, which is blending in very beautifully with Dr. Hegde's talk. Since there are a lot of doctors talking, I feel the logical aspects of the meaning are very well taken care of. I've been trying to practice all the Pancha Maha Yagnas every day, and I feel a little discipline coming into me, especially with the Manushya Yagna, where I'm trying to walk that extra mile for someone I don't necessarily get along with. I've joined the Upanishad and Bhagavad Gita class, and I'm looking forward to learning to merge with my Krishna. Hari Om.
Namaste. I wish to thank Dr. Hegde and his team for the excellent 8 sessions of Param Vedanta's Introduction to Vedanta. The classes were packed with so much information that in these 8 weeks, they covered everything and more a beginner to Vedantic studies requires to know. Each class was backed with notes. So if the concepts were too overwhelming at some stage, one could always study the notes and grasp the concepts. For me, a left-brained, rational, logical person, it was heartwarming to see many doctors teaching these concepts. Thank you, Dr. Hegde, for introducing us on Guru Purnima to the Kaivalya Upanishad class and from next week to the Gita class. I'm very excited to be doing both and have signed up for the latter. I'm blessed to be on this journey with your guidance. Thank you.
Good evening, sir. Myself, Dr. Kishan. My favorite part in this Vedanta class was regarding the concept of faith, like how it is the very foundation to grow in the spiritual path, and even a small doubts, it can be so dangerous, and that gave me a very good clarity of certain things in my entire life. And the classes, there was to good depth, at the same time there was huge clarity. Generally, whenever people go deep, there is no clarity, but there was absolute clarity all the time and absolute connecting between each point. And when we listen to these classes, so what happened to me, my experience was all the dots in life which happened as small instances, and I could connect them and understand how the divine phenomenon was working. So these Vedantic classes, in the way which they are explained by Dr. Hegde and they're explained in the other examples of various instances of Gita, give us a very practical base of what is happening already in life and how to see the life from the view of how the God plays with us, what is his rules, and how we have to understand it from his view, not from just our own view. So that's the most wonderful thing which I felt.
Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Namaste Guruji. I'm Manju. I'm a housewife. My sincere gratitude to my gurus, Pramila Aunty, Rajeshri, and to Dr. Hegde. In spite of his busy schedule, not only imparting self-knowledge to one and all, also inspiring others to present Vedanta on their own, is doing immense service to the mankind. The first Shloka from chapter 2:7 was the turning point in my life, surrendering to divine. we must have faith in divine. That is a real surrender. To me, surrender is mental attitude. Leave everything to God. Accept any situation with prasada buddhi. This acceptance made my life stress-free, very less. And the second shloka of my turning point in my life is chapter 2, shloka 14, titiksha, that is the forbearance. This shloka changed my way of thinking and accepting things as it is. The most important thing we must do is to accept any situation calmly and you decide what you want to do. Any kind of complaining, irritation, lack of patience will not help. We must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed, else it will take away our energy. Bear with it patiently, and this too shall pass. Hence, I request all my friends over here to have faith in this beautiful journey, Bhagavad Gita. Thank you, sir.
Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. My pranam to all the Gurujis of program Introduction to Vedanta and in particular to Dr. Hegde. Thanks to the invitation by my brother-in-law, Sri Venkatesha Prasad, about 8 weeks back, I was blessed to get opportunity to attend this course. But I am least qualified to give feedback on this course. I will explain. For me, this has looked like an admission to a Montessori course of Vedanta. All my life, I have focused on my responsibilities towards my family. And that looks more like an excuse of a student who did not prepare his life and did not pursue a way of life. This invitation was like for a stranded ship, a lighthouse gives a direction to come and safely come to the shore. This course has given a direction for the remaining part of my journey of life to pursue whatever little I can learn from the learned. What was very mesmerizing about this course and inspirational was how highly qualified, highly stressed people like Dr. Hegde and many others are still finding time and have found time to learn, practice and preach this and have the passion to reach. This itself was the most inspiring part of this course. And I am so happy to see that the course is not just ending in the 8 weeks, but an introduction to Gita discourse is beginning. And this is reminding me of Swami Chinmayananda's discourses that I used to attend when I was 28 years old. I will be very grateful to Sri Venkatesha Prasad and also my pranam to all the gurus and the many shishyas that Dr. Hegde have prepared. And once again, my Sastanga Pranam and Namaskar to all the gurus in the program. Thank you.
Abhinandanam to the entire team of Bhagavad Vedanta. I am blessed to get insights of Vedanta. Teaching and instructions were crystal clear. I have an affinity towards Veda, which made me more inclined to this special online course. As part of my learning, I have written a spiritual poetry, which I have already shared across. Vidya dadati viniyam, viniyadati patrata, patratvadanam apnoti, yadharmam tadasukha. Eagerly look forward to further classes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having stayed back with us. We have one more very important mantra to share and a final concluding announcement. So please be patient for maybe just a few minutes only, not more than 5 or 6 minutes. The next mantra, we always conclude any program with a mantra which is called Sarvesham Swastir Bhavatu. This is a beautiful mantra and it is worth knowing the meaning. I will request Ullas to elaborate. Ullas has spoken to us earlier. He is the Chief of Finance and Marketing of a very successful startup which is reaching more than 50 lakh of people, a student of IIM Bangalore who worked in the US in Microsoft some time ago and in Accenture. Ullas, can you please explain this mantra to us?
Hari Om, sir. There cannot be a better closure for this type of a program, Introduction to Vedanta. It is a very different shloka in which who we are praying for here. We need to understand that. Most of the Shanti mantras that we have seen have been asking something for my own self, my wealth, my fame, my health. But this one is actually asking us to develop empathy, hamdardi, sahanubhuti, samvedna, feeling for others. We all have this muscle in ourselves, but like any other muscle, if not used, this would also get atrophied. So this particular verse helps us flex that muscle regularly so that we develop that. Let's get to the verse in particular. The verse is very simple. Sarvesham swastir bhavatu. May there be well-being in all. Sarvesham shantir bhavatu. May there be peace in all. This is something very different than all other prayers. Sarvesham purnam bhavatu. May there be completeness, fulfillment. Sarvesham mangalam bhavatu. May there be auspiciousness. The key word in all this verse is Sarvesham, that it is asking all these prayers for others, for everybody. And this everybody is not just all the humans. It is including all the animals, the bacteria, and even non-living things. So that's the greatness of the vision of this particular mantra. In the same way, the next verse is also very similar. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramaya. May all be prosperous and happy. May there be no disease, no illness. It is quite pertinent in today's times. May all be spiritually uplifting. What I see in others. It is said what you focus on multiplies. Everyone has all different type of things. The only thing which we are asking for here for ourselves is may we get that vision to see goodness in others. May there be no sorrow. Sarvesham ma kaschit dukkha bhag bhavet. Om shanti shanti shanti. The three types of shanti of Adi Devik, Adi Bhautik, and Adhyatmik, which we have seen earlier. Now, what is so different about this verse is that here we see what is the root cause of all the problems. Is why should I actually pray for the entire creation? What is there in it for me? This is what we mostly would think. I have mostly thought about me and myself and my family and all the things and beings which are very close to me. This is all happening because of the identification with the body. As students of Vedanta, we cannot afford to do that anymore. In Vyavarik Jagat, of course, we can still do that, but deep down inside, we need to see what is our right identification. In the next slides, we see that there is a very important thing that we need to care for others. This identification has to be with the higher self. For example, if a mosquito bites in my hand or on my leg, my hand would not say, what should I care? Because here the identification is with the entire body, the whole body. The hand will go and obviously help the leg. It is a no-brainer. But in the larger sense, in the macroscopic world, we always say, why should I care? We need to understand that all our existence is dependent on everything else also. So if we care about those others, then we are ultimately helping ourselves. When Ramana was once asked something about others, he said, there are no others. Now it is difficult for us to make sense of all of it. But there were times when it never made sense that earth goes around the sun. But the fact still remains. In the same way, we need to understand that we are, if at all this understanding helps, that we are a part and parcel of this entire creation or manifestation. In that way, we can always think that if the entire creation or manifestation is healthy, so I must pray for that. And if I pray for that entirety, then it is going to help me, obviously. Now, it is possible for one to think that, well, how is it going to reach everyone if I just pray? We should think that how we plant, how we water the roots of a tree, and then the water reaches the entire tree. In the similar manner, if we keep praying, it will reach the entire universe. So next time when you are meeting anybody, when you are thinking about others, have that empathy, think about them, and always keep chanting this mantra before you go to sleep, is what sir also recommends us. Sarve bhavantu sukhina, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukkha bhag bhavet. This is also help us purify our minds, which is an important qualification for Jnana Yoga, for all these Vedantic studies. Thank you, sir. Hari Om.
Thank you very much, Ullas, for a nice explanation. Our Guru Swami Paramarthananda says, if you go to God, if you have direct Sakshat Darshana with God, and if there's something to ask for only this. Sarve bhavantu sukhinaha, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyanti, ma kaschit dukkha bhag bhavet. With this, we have come to the end, and I request you to stay just for a few minutes for certain announcements, because for those of us who've been involved in organizing this, it's a moment of tremendous amount of joy, as expression that cannot be expressed as gratefulness to a God, to Guru, and to so many silent workers who have worked so hard to make this possible, to create a platform to be able to reach all of you. I will request Venkatesh Prasad to make a few announcements after my final utterance of this mantra. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.